Hi everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tom Walsh. I'm the state representative from Peabody, representing the residents of wards 1 through 5. It is the 12th Essex District officially, and it's been a while since we had one of these conversations, and I thought it was important to take a few minutes and just talk about a few things that are happening on Beacon Hill that directly affect the residents of Peabody. I guess I would start with all the transportation issues because it's been kind of a difficult summer in many respects to get around the city, but I look at that as a positive in many respects. If you look around, obviously the issues on Route 114, which I'll talk about more in depth in a minute, but if you look around, there's been construction on Endicott Street with the replacement of the bridge, which is really a partnership with the state and the city as far as making sure that that bridge is safe and that motorists will be safe traveling over it. And I know it's been an inconvenience for people, but that is a combination of city funds and a state grant to make that happen. Additionally, you look at Forest Street over Route 95, the access ramp over to 128, and again on right above Route 128, going over Jubilee Drive, there's been some bridge work there as well. So those things are a little bit of an inconvenience, I guess, but it's progress for motoring public and definitely adding to the safety for all residents, not only of Peabody, but the surrounding area. In addition to that, Route 114 has been an ongoing project. As many of you know, the City Council, back when Councilor Saslaw was the Ward 5 councilor, held a meeting with the neighbors from across the city, talking about Route 114 and how we could make it a more safe traveling road. We will never solve all the problems, unfortunately, on Route 114, but there have been great attempts through the efforts of the Mass Department of Transportation, who Representative Kearns, Senator Lovely, and our offices have met with them periodically over the last couple of years to try to make improvements to Route 114. Having said that, you'll see now that we have been in the process over the summer of the milling of Route 114 and repaving, and there will be new road markings. And fortunately, the lane that has been eliminated will be going back in front of, on the eastern side of Route 114, heading really from when you come off Route 128, heading down towards Sylvan Street. And I do appreciate the patience of everybody who uses that stretch. We do have agreement that that's going to happen, and I know that for a lot of people it hasn't happened fast enough, but everything, there is a reason for everything. So as the project progresses, we will see the positive signs and the positive results of that. Another issue on Route 114 that I wanted to talk about just briefly, because we have a bill pending that would prohibit car carriers from offloading their vehicles on a state highway. And that bill has not yet had its public hearing. We're hoping that that happens within the next few weeks. And you know, I will encourage everybody from the city of Peabody and beyond who's really been inconvenienced by those offloading trucks. If they want to offer testimony, we'll certainly relay that to the committee. The City Council in the City of Peabody, and I've worked closely with them on creating an ordinance that would prohibit the offloading of these vehicles, especially in that center lane on Route 114. And we've seen it on almost a daily basis. It was yesterday I was driving down 114, and sure enough, here's a car carrier offloading cars. And what's frustrating about it is the dealership where this car carrier was offloading has plenty of space behind it where the truck could pull in and do the offloading there. It's a real safety issue. And it's not just in Peabody. We do have an issue on Route 114, but I can speak from experience coming off of Route 1 in Linfield at the lights. The dealerships along there, the car carriers park and they take up that lane which blocks traffic and slows it down all the way down Route 1. It's a safety hazard, and we really need to correct it. So there would be fines involved in that, and it's really not that we're looking to punish people, we're looking to encourage them to pull the trucks off the road and keep everybody safe. And just as we wrap up on transportation issues, I guess I'd just like to briefly talk about the Sumner Tunnel, which at the end of August obviously will reopen, or has reopened when this airs. and it will again be closed during weekends. So if you're going to the airport during weekends, you'll still have that extra traffic heading in or out of the airport. But we should see a little bit of relief along Route 1. If you travel Route 1 into Boston in the morning, it has been a challenge to say the least. A lot of mornings, especially during the summertime, traffic is obviously lighter because school was not in session. But you would get to about Route 16 and the traffic would stop and you would crawl from that point over the bridge into Boston. So with the Sumner Tunnel opening again during the week, it will alleviate some of the inconvenience that people have had here. And you know, I guess the frustrating part, we had asked that maybe we get extra buses, especially in the Peabody area. Unfortunately, everything seemed to be focused on the rail service, and still many of our people have to get to the rails to then get to Boston. So we'll see what happens, and we'll work on that for next year, because next summer we'll be in the same situation. One of the other big issues that's going on in the city of Peabody, and it's mostly being coordinated through the mayor's office, is the announced closure of Ruth Lowe business on Washington Street in Peabody. It's going to have a huge impact on this community, and there's a lot that we don't know at this point, as far as are they marketing the property to others, what type of industry would look at that property. There are issues as far as water quality. There are leases that the city has. So we were able to, through the budget this year, secure $100,000 for the city of Peabody to then hire experts in certain areas that they're going to need as they kind of coordinate what will happen with this closure. You know, hopefully the ideal situation would be another company moved in, but we're not sure what's going to happen yet. And there are environmental issues. You know, Ruth Lowe, like Eastman Gelatin before it, uses a significant amount of water, and they've been very protective of our water sources all the way up to Cedar Pond at the Linfield line. And without the usages of all that water, what type of environmental impact is that going to have as far as our flood mitigation projects and whatnot? So there are a lot of questions. The money that we secured with the assistance of Representative Kearns and Senator Lovely will help the city of Peabody as they move forward in trying to navigate the next few months. In addition to the money we were able to secure for Ruth Lowe, there were some other little projects that were important to us, and they impact the city of Peabody. Some were requests in talking with local councilors and just people around town. And a couple things. One was very important, and we had a ribbon cutting a couple weeks ago, and that's for the all-inclusive playground at the McCarthy School, which is an impressive project. If you haven't had the chance to look at this playground, it's fantastic. And really, it's for everyone. Anybody with a disability is able to access this playground and enjoy all the slides and everything that are inside. That was a coordinated effort with Representative Kearns, again, and Senator Lovely. And it was really at the request of the principal and really the folks at the McCarthy School, who, I must say, had a fundraiser a couple months ago at the Holy Ghost Society. And it was one of the most impressive fundraisers that I've ever seen. They worked really hard to make this reality, and I congratulate them, and I'm glad that the state was able to help in a very small way. Also, we were able to secure $10,000, which is a small amount of money in the whole scheme of you know, $50-some-odd billion budget. But what we're trying to do is create a revolving fund so that the city can set up a program to make rain barrels available for sale to our residents. Now, ironically, this year when we start working on this project, we've had more rain than we've had in years. But last year, if you remember last summer, we had a drought and we had a water ban, and we really missed an opportunity. When it actually did rain, we should have been collecting water. And I know there are a lot of residents who are paying more attention to that. And if we can set up a program where we can create an infrastructure so that the rain barrels are available to our residents, I think it's going to be a good thing in the long run. There was also a request for water recreation areas, some funding for that at Farnham Park. And I spoke with the mayor, I spoke with Councilor Manning Martin, who really brought this to my attention. And that may not be all the money they need, and we'll see what they have planned, but at least the money is available to them if this goes forward. But that planning really comes through the city as far as the implementation. So I hope it does work. I think it would be a great thing. And again, we were happy to assist in some way. Okay, so another piece of legislation that I'm working on is House 2416, which is something that I've probably spoken with you before about, which is creating a program that would require hotel and motel staff to be trained in the signs of human trafficking. And although we would like to think that this does not occur in our region, unfortunately, with the amount of hotels and being on the 95 corridor, we know that it does exist. And I've had the privilege in years past to work with a task force of local police, state police, and federal. The FBI was involved, and they have a task force that monitors this. But we don't mandate training for our hotel and motel staff workers, and there are signs that they can see. So what we're doing is asking that all hotel and motel workers be trained in the signs of human trafficking. We were fortunate in the budget last year to get some funding to create a grant program so that many hotel and motel operators could then access a grant and train their members. So that is ongoing as we speak today. Another bill that's really important to me is a bill I filed on first-time homebuyer Bill of Rights. And we call it that, but really what it is asking when a potential home buyer for the first time is out looking that they are handed either by their finance people or by the real estate, the realtors, a pamphlet that shows them all the things that they should be aware of. How important is a home inspection? We've seen over and over the last couple of years in this tight housing market that people will forego a home inspection. And then what happens is they find out there are problems later on and they have no recourse. So it's really a dangerous thing. So basically we want first-time homeowners to be more protected and more aware as they're going into the process. And one other issue that I just want to touch a little bit on is I recently signed a letter along with many of my colleagues and sent it along to Secretary Tepper from the Department of Energy and Environmental Affairs, really asking that the process at DPU be a little bit more transparent. And this really comes out of a report from the Attorney General's office. So that when there is a project that is proposed, that people are able to access the information much more easily in a much more concise manner. And one of the recommendations is that webinars could be set up and offered to the general public so that they understand all the acronyms. And a lot of projects that utilities are looking to push forward have these names and then numbers, and they don't really clearly let the general public know exactly what it is. You have to dig, and you have to dig deep. So what this letter has been sent to the secretary asking her to implement some of the recommendations that the Attorney General has recommended. And we think that's incredibly important. And I guess lastly, one of the issues that I have talked to more people over the last several months about, and I am anxious as they are to see this come to fruition, is a tax relief package. The House and the Senate both adopted their own set of tax relief proposals earlier this year. It is in conference committee. I am very confident that over the course of the next couple months that we will come to an agreement and we will see some tax relief. Of particular interest to me is the estate tax, and I'm really hoping that we increase that at least to the $2 million mark. Anybody who owns a home now, I mean, even in the city of Peabody, it's incredible, but the price of homes is so high that when it comes to estates, it's not very difficult to get to that $1 million mark. So I'm very confident that within the next couple months, with everybody working together, that we'll come to agreement and people across the Commonwealth will see some relief. The senior tax credit is another item on the tax relief package that is important to me. The circuit breaker, as we call it, would double from the now existing $1,200 to a $2,400 credit. And that's something that both the Senate and the House is very focused on, and I'm very hopeful that that will be included in the final package. Since we last spoke, committee assignments have changed. I think the last time we talked, I was still the chairman of the Committee on Ethics, and with this new session, have been appointed to the Committee on Third Reading as chair. The Committee on Third Reading is a very interesting and, in many ways, very important piece of the legislative process. Any bill that is reported favorably from any one of the House committees then comes to the Committee on Third Reading, where we work closely with House counsel, with our staff, making sure that the bill is properly filed, that it is, it's cited properly, and then we are somewhat a clearinghouse so that we then kind of coordinate with the Speaker's office on the bills that then reach the House floor. So it's an exciting committee. It's an awesome responsibility. Sometimes it's very technical. We don't have committee hearings the way that many of the committees do, yet we spend a lot of time making sure that the bills that do come before us are properly before us and accurate, so that if they are adopted, we know that things are as they should be. I didn't mention, and probably should have done this at the opening of the conversation, where we are. For many of you, you probably recognize that we have the old Engine 3 firehouse behind us up here at the Brooksby Farm area. We're right behind the Smith Barn, and thank you to the Peabody Historical Society and the City of Peabody for letting us film up here today. It's an awesome place, and for me, it's kind of smack dab in the middle of the district, so it was a great place and relatively quiet. We have done some of these little conversations and had a lot of traffic or sirens or whatever, and this worked out perfectly today. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is it's funny how at certain times of the legislative session and whatever is percolating across the Commonwealth really correlates to the types of calls that we get in our office. And obviously the pandemic was incredibly challenging for a lot of people, particularly with unemployment. And I give a lot of credit to my staff for the work that they did in helping so many residents across the city of Peabody when they were out of work, and we were trying to get them access to the unemployment office and make sure that they received the benefits that they were entitled to. It has shifted a little bit. We still, on occasion, will get our unemployment calls. The number one issue, aside from that pandemic era, I guess, is housing. We are constantly called. People are desperate looking for housing, and the availability is so limited, particularly in the city of Peabody. Peabody is a desirable place to live, and when something comes on the market, it goes quickly. What we find, and I've talked about this before, and I caution people, especially people who are retiring and decide that they don't want the upkeep of their home and the responsibility of it, and they go into an apartment complex. And sometimes their income, their fixed income, does not keep pace with the rent increases, and that causes problems. And then they're looking for something, and the availability is very limited in the community. So I just would encourage people to make sure that they get very good counsel before they finally make that decision. As always, we're available. I'm happy to meet with people in the district. Happy to see Breaking Grounds open again, because quite often if somebody wants to meet with me locally, we will go to Breaking Grounds and have a cup of coffee or whatever and discuss whatever the concerns are there. We periodically have our office hours, and as always, if you want to email me, it's thomas.walsh@mahouse.gov. And our office number is 617-722-2410.